Bloody hell. I think
Set in the 9th century, there was a man who had 10 magic rings that he got from a volcanic crater that gave him the power of a god and eternal life. He has many names that always change in each century, and currently his name is Wenwu. Let's just call him Wu. With the power he has, Wu has so many subordinates that he controls various regions. He can achieve anything he wants. Power, wealth, and anything to fulfill his lust since 1,000 years ago. But greed still controls him until he finds a note about Tallow Village, which is a hidden village with lots of magical powers and mystical animals there. Wu is ambitious to find it and control Tallow Village. From the results of his research over the years, Wu discovered the existence of a bamboo forest that covered Tallow Village, and he set off for the village. When they had arrived in the middle of the bamboo forest, the road they had previously passed now closed itself until finally his car rolled into a ravine and Wu was saved again thanks to his magic ring. Wu himself continued to walk through the bamboo forest until he met a woman named Li. Li was a Tallow resident who was tasked with guarding the village. Feeling invincible, Wu forced his way into Tallow Village but was stopped by Li. The martial arts technique performed by Li was a martial art taught by the gods so that he was able to control the universe, let alone attacks from Wu and his magical rings. This was the first time Wu had lost in 1,000 years. Apparently Li did not have the heart to kill Wu, and instead he fell in love with Wu. As did Wu, who felt that this was the first time someone had been able to control his powers. They then got to know each other, and eventually feelings of love grew between them until they were married. Since their marriage, Wu promised not to use his ring anymore and wanted to live a peaceful life like an ordinary human being with his beloved wife Li. They then had a son named Shang-Chi, and 2 years later Shang-Chi's younger sibling was born, named Xialing. Little Shang-Chi continued to be trained by his father so that later he could inherit his ring, and Shang-Chi was very obsessed and continued to train. One night Wuat went out of town for business. Suddenly their house was visited by a group of mafia who wanted revenge. Li tried to fight back, but because Li had lost all his strength since leaving Tallow, Li was killed before Shang-Chi's eyes. Wu, who had just returned home, was so angry that he put his ring back on. And with Shang-Chi, Wu went to find the person who killed his wife. In a casino, Shang-Chi, who recognized the faces of the people who killed his mother, showed Wu the person, and all of them died before Shang-Chi's eyes. But Wu had not found his boss and asked Shang-Chi to kill the mafia boss later. Since then Wu trained Shang-Chi even harder until he grew into a strong teenager, unlike his younger brother Shang-Chi. Xialing was not allowed to practice martial arts. But secretly Xialing studied and trained until she had fighting skills that were no less than her brother. Wu gave Shang-Chi the task of finding the mafia boss who killed his mother. Then Shang-Chi said goodbye to his younger brother and promised to return in 3 days. The task given by his father was very difficult for Shang-Chi. His heart refused, because revenge would only give birth to new revenge, until he decided not to kill the mafia boss. And Sanctions also did not dare to go home. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, and now it has been 6 years since Sanctions left home.
When this guy was like twice my
Now Shang-Chi works in America as a hotel parking attendant with a friend named Catty. They are very close, like siblings. One day when they were going to work by bus, suddenly someone approached Shang-Chi and asked for his pendant necklace. They were Wu's men, Shang-Chi's father, who was assigned to find a pair of pendants that were each worn by Shang-Chi and his sister Xialing. Of course Sanctions refused because it was an inheritance from his late mother, and then a great fight broke out between them. When Shang-Chi was fighting, the bus driver suddenly fainted and Katie immediately took over the wheel. Catty struggled to control the car whose brakes had failed until finally she was able to make an emergency stop safely. But unfortunately Shang-Chi's pendant was already in the hands of Wu's men. With that incident, Shang-Chi immediately went home and prepared to go to Macau to his sister who had the pair of pendants. Catty insisted on going with Shang-Chi.
You can explain on the plane, Sean.
Long story short, they arrived at the address on Xialing's letter. It turned out that the place was a free-fight gambling location. When Shang-Chi entered there, apparently many people were curious because Shang-Chi's fight on the bus had gone viral on social media. Then he was forced into the arena. With a heavy heart and very reluctantly, finally Shang-Chi was ready to fight. Apparently his opponent was Shu Xialing, Shang-Chi's sister. Xialing immediately attacked him. Shang-Chi only took blow after blow without putting up a fight after finding out it was his sister. But because he was still angry because his sister had left him for 6 years without news, Xialing still beat him, until Shang-Chi was declared defeated. After that, Shang-Chi talked to Xialing about her pendant being hunted by their father and showed the letter sent by Xialing. It turned out that Xialing never sent the letter. Shortly after that, Wu troops came to attack to take Xialing's pendant. They were forced to return home.
My son is home.
The next day, Wu invited his 2 children to talk. Wu explained that since his wife's death, Wu often heard whispers from his wife asking to be saved. Of course, Shang-Chi, Xialing and Katie did not believe such things. However, Wu convinced them by showing them the secret behind a pair of pendants belonging to Shang-Chi and Xialing. There was a clue to Tallow Village.
On Qingming opens.
Wu then ordered his men to get ready because in 3 days the Tallow Gate would open. Wu would go there to free his wife who was trapped in the Gate of Darkness. Shang-Chi and Xialing opposed Wu so that they were both locked up in an underground room, including Katie.
Initially, I thought
Shang-Chi and Xialing still did not believe what their father was talking about because they only knew that Tallow Village was a fairy tale that their mother often told them when they were little. While they were still confused, a voice was heard from another room. Then Shang-Chi checked it. Apparently there was a man being held captive. His name was Trevor. He was locked up there because he knew many secrets about Tallow Village. Now Trevor is assigned to take care of a mystical creature from Tallow named Morris, namely a mystical creature that has no face and eyes, but strangely he can see well. Morris was captured by Wu on an expedition to find Tallow Village, and currently only Trevor understands Morris's language. Through Trevor, Morris asks Shang-Chi to be taken back to Tallow Village. From Wu's explanation that the Tallow Gate only opens once a year and that's still 3 days away, but Morris said that he could help them get there right now. When they were talking, suddenly the wall of the room broke. Apparently Xialing knew the ins and outs of the room and they immediately left there. As a result, they all managed to get out and escape from there. Your men saw on CCTV. Then they were chased, and finally they were able to escape from the pursuit and went straight to the bamboo forest.
What's happening back there?
With directions from Morris, they began to enter the bamboo forest, even though they were almost trapped in the maze of the bamboo forest that continued to move. Finally, they arrived at a lake in Tallow Village. Morris, as a guide, guided them into a tunnel under the waterfall until they arrived at Tallow Village.
Bloody hell. I think
When approaching the settlement, they were stopped by the residents of Tallow. Then a woman approached. It turned out to be their mother's sister named Aunt Nan.
From the evil that's locked behind it.
Nan greeted them warmly. Nan said that Tallow Village was a village ordered by the gods to guard a hill where there was a gate of darkness and ensure that the gate remained closed so that the evil forces in it remained confined there.
So you think soul...
That's when Shang-Chi said to Aunt Nan that they didn't have much time because Wu would come soon. They all trained hard to defend Tallow.
在塔罗
Shang-Chi asked Aunt Nan to teach him how his mother defeated his father first. Then Bibanan taught Shang-Chi the kung fu of the gods. The next day, the residents of Tallow Village were on standby to block Wu and his troops who intended to destroy the Gate of Darkness. Nan tried to explain that the voice that Wu often heard was not a whisper from Li, his wife, but the voice of a demon from the Gate of Darkness asking to be freed. But Wu still believes that it is his wife's voice and there is no other way to stop Wu other than fighting. The Tallow residents finally fight against Wu's troops, while Wu himself enters the temple and prays for his wife. Then Shang-Chi comes, who wants to stop his father's intentions. Finally, they fight hard until Shang-Chi is thrown into the lake. Wu then headed to the Gate of Darkness. There was a protective wall and Wu began to destroy it. The blows from the magic ring began to weaken the gate. One by one, evil creatures came out of it and began to attack the residents. These creatures hunted human spirits that would be eaten by the demon dragon that was still inside the gate. Meanwhile, Shang-Chi, who sank into the lake, was approached by the spirit of the god dragon and carried Shang-Chi flying out of the lake and immediately ate the spirit-eating creatures. Shang-Chi then stopped Wu, who continued to attack the gate. Then they fought again. At first Shang-Chi was overwhelmed fighting Wu. But then he remembered the moves of the gods taught by Aunt Nan and his mother. Finally, Shang-Chi was able to control the magic ring, but when he was about to kill Wu, the sanctions stopped his intention, and at the same time the Gate of Darkness had been broken by the demon dragon. The god dragon finally fought against the demon dragon, who was getting stronger after eating many spirits. Then Shang-Chi met Xialing on the god dragon. At that time the demon dragon headed to the village to devour all the human spirits there. But the dragon god managed to hold it back with the power of the lake water. And at that time the sanction that had mastered the 10 magic rings was able to defeat the demon dragon until it was shattered into pieces. In the end, Shang-Chi had managed to defeat Wu and stop the evil spirit that had been locked in the Gate of Darkness. That night they paid their last respects to the villagers who had fallen in the battle earlier that afternoon. Now Shang-Chi is the new master of the 10 magic rings, and of course now he is an immortal man. And the story ends. The message that we can take from this film is, an advantage or privilege can be a gift and can also be a disaster. Do not follow your lust, because it is the whisper of Satan that will lead humans into the valley of error. But control your lust so that it becomes a beautiful decoration in life. Don't forget to subscribe, comment and like. Stay healthy and enthusiastic. Sayonara. See you in the next video.